light and fluffy Victoria sponge, and I'm going to do it as a step-by-step guide because this is a really easy recipe to follow and it's a great cake to start out with if you're pretty new to baking. Okay, so step one is your oven. Now I have a fan-assisted electric oven, and the norm temperature for a fan-assisted electric oven is somewhere between 160 and 180 degrees Celsius. It can go slightly outside of those temperatures depending on what recipe you read, but basically if you have it at a lower temperature it's going to take longer to cook but there's less caramelisation, and if you have it at a high temperature it's going to take less time to cook but more caramelisation. And caramelisation is basically just the sugar hardening and caramelising, and that's what creates the crust around your cake. So I like to do mine at 160 degrees for about 25 minutes, 22 to 25 minutes, and I find that bakes at a really even temperature. It makes the cake rise evenly and it creates a thin crust but not enough that I want to cut it off or it's going to be hard to chew through. So step two is your tins. So this recipe is for 2 layers of an 8-inch cake. So I have 2 tins here, 8-inch tins, and I have greased them with butter, and I've also lined them with some greaseproof paper or parchment paper, and I've dusted the edge with plain flour. Now I take all of those steps because I find that this works really well for me. It's easy to get the cake out that way, and it also helps it rise evenly, I find. There's loads of different things that you can line a cake tin with. You can get sprays that you just spray around. You can just grease it, you can grease it and flour it, you can grease it and put greaseproof paper all around it. There's loads of different ways. I find the best way that works for me is to grease all around the tin, line the bottom of the tin and dust around the edge with flour. Okay, so step 3 is your equipment. And you don't actually need that much equipment for a Victoria sponge because it's a really easy cake to make. You are going to need a few things though. You're going to need some weighing scales because I weigh my eggs and then do the rest of the ingredients to that measurement. I don't really like cup measurements, sorry Americans, but I don't find them very accurate. I always like to weigh my ingredients with grams. You are also going to need a spatula or something that you can get the cake off the bowl with. You're going to need a sieve because you're going to want to sieve your self-raising flour. You're going to need something to put your cake on. So I've got a cake board here, but you can use a plate or whatever you've got to hand. Depending on what you decorate it with, you might need a piping bag and a piping tip. You're going to need some greaseproof paper, as I said before, to line your tins if you do want to do it that way. And if you've got a stand mixer or an electric mixer, you're going to need one of them. If not, you can do this recipe by hand as well. Step 4 is your ingredients. So, as I mentioned before, I weigh my eggs. So I've got 4 large eggs here, which will make the 2 layers of 8-inch cake. And I weigh them, and it came to 260 degrees. Degrees? Grams. Why have I said degrees the whole way through? It's grams. Shall I start that again? And this came out at 260 grams. So I've got 260 grams of self-raising flour which I've sifted, 260 grams of caster sugar, 260 grams of softened butter. I've also got 2 tablespoons of whole milk, and I've added about 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla in there as well. You don't have to add vanilla to a Victoria sponge recipe, but I just like the flavour of vanilla. And depending on how you decorate it, you're going to want some strawberries, some strawberry jam, some buttercream, some double cream, but that's entirely up to your interpretation. So step 5, finally, is making the cake. I use the creaming method, but you can use the all-in-one method as well. Basically the differences are, in making it, the creaming method, you cream together your butter and sugar, then you add your eggs, then you add the flour. The all-in-one method is you just shove it all in a bowl and mix it together. That method is obviously a lot quicker. However, I find the best results is with the creaming method, and that's because you're whipping loads of air into the butter and sugar when you're creaming them together, and again with the eggs, and I just find it makes a lighter sponge. So that's what we're going to do today. So I'm going to add my butter and sugar into my mixer. So we're going to mix this on a medium to high speed, about 4 or 5 on your stand mixer. And we're going to mix it for at least 5 minutes to really get loads of air in there. We are looking for the mixture to have combined properly, so we want all of the sugar and butter combined. It will have increased in volume as well, and it will look light, pale and fluffy. The next stage is to add our 4 eggs. and I'm going to add them one at a time, and I'm going to mix them for about a minute between each one, starting off on a low speed and then I'll work it up to a medium to high speed again. If you have a larger batter and you're using more eggs, you might want to add two in at a time, but for this size batter you want to add one in this time. That's really hard to say when you've got braces. There's a lot of t-t-t-t's. So start this off slow and then we'll add them in gently. So that's the eggs added in now, and at this stage you might find that your mixture has curdled. And the reason for a mixture curdling is because your fats are at different temperatures. So your eggs and your butter might be at slightly different temperatures, and that's what's made it curdled. As I say in every video, don't worry about it. It might look a bit scary and a bit worrying, but your cake mixture is going to be fine. It will more than likely sort itself out when you add the flour, and if it doesn't, then it will rectify itself in the oven. So please don't worry about it and just carry on with making cake. So we are going to add the milk in next, and we're going to add this on a pretty slow speed at first because we don't want it going all over our kitchen, and we're going to mix it for about 30 seconds in total. The milk's in now, so the last stage is to add our self-raising flour, and this is a really important stage to get right and take your time with. And that's because we've just added loads of air in, and it's taken a bit of time to add it by doing the creaming method, mixing the butter and sugar and with the eggs and with the milk, and we don't want to knock that air out by adding the flour in too vigorously. So we're going to mix this in really gently. If you've got a stand mixer or an electric mixer, you want to do it on the lowest setting possible, and you might only do it for 30 seconds or so and then do the rest by hand. And if you're doing it by hand, you want to fold the mixture in instead of mixing it quite harshly. So you just want to fold it in, and you can do this by getting your spatula and just going like this and crossing it into like a figure of 8 and just doing that gently until it all combines. So I'll add this in very gently. And like I said, I might finish it by hand, but let's see how we get on. Okay, so I've literally mixed that for about 15 seconds. Oh, I've got loads of flour here, so let me put that back in and mix that in too. Okay, I'll mix that by hand. So I've literally mixed that for about 15 seconds with the mixer, and I'm going to do the rest by hand. The mixer's done a pretty good job, but it's never going to get everything. So I'm going to wipe the excess off my paddle, and then I'm going to fold the rest in by hand. Oh, and just a little pointer, you don't want to bash your paddle against the bowl to get the mixture off it, because that could knock the air out, so you just want to scrape it off. I know it might take a bit of a while and you've got to be patient, but it's the best way to do it. I want to do this in as fewer turns as I can. So everything folded through, and now the batter is ready. So I'm going to distribute this between the two cake tins, and you can weigh this if you want, and then we'll get on to step 6, and I think it's step 6, which is the baking. Step 6, the baking. So if you're baking your cakes at 160 degrees like me, you want to bake them for about 22 to 25 minutes on the middle shelf. Now, as a bit of a side note, most domestic ovens either don't heat up to the temperature or heat above the temperature that you've actually put them on. So mine, for example, probably isn't at 160 degrees, even though I've put it on 160 degrees. It might be cooler or hotter than that, and that's why I always give a bit of a guide, either 22 to 25 minutes. Mine, I know, takes more towards the 25 minutes, but yours could take less time or more time. So we need to check that they're done, and the way that we can check that they're done is by sticking a skewer in the middle, and if it comes out clean, then you know it's ready. You can also press the top, and if it springs back, that means it's usually done, but I always like to double check with the skewer just to be on the safe side. And you're going to bake it in the middle of the oven, and you don't want to open the oven door before you think it's ready, because they're just going to sink right down, and you're going to have a cake that's kind of raised at the edges, but a big dip in the middle, and we don't want that. So leave them in the oven for at least 22 minutes, unless you know your oven cooks a lot hotter, and check them at 22 minutes. The cakes are out of the oven now, and they took exactly 25 minutes in my oven. And step 7 is cooling the cakes. So before you decorate them by putting jam or buttercream or whipped cream or whatever you're putting on them, you need to make sure that they're completely cool, otherwise it's going to be a bit messy. So I have cooled them in the tin for about 5 minutes, and I'm going to take them out of the tin. So you want to get a knife and just scrape your knife around the edge to to loosen these sides up. And then we just tip it upside down and it should come out really, really easily. And the same for the second one, so get a knife, scrape it around the edge, tip it upside down, and that's it. I'm going to take the greaseproof paper off gently. And that's it, we're going to leave them to cool. They'll probably take about an hour to cool and then we'll get on with the decorating part, which is the fun bit. Step 8 is decorating, and there's loads of different ways you can decorate a Victoria sponge. My family, for example, my nan and grandma's just like jam in it. My mum likes double cream that's been whipped up. I like buttercream, so there's just loads of different variations, and this is where you can have a real play around with it. I've got buttercream, strawberry jam and some fresh strawberries. So I'm going to put a little bit of buttercream on my cake board, and that's going to act as a glue. And then I'm going to get my first layer and press it down on the cake board. And then I'm going to get my buttercream. And if you want to know how I make my buttercream, then I'll leave a card in the corner. So I'm going to put some blobs around the outside. And then I'm going to put some in the centre. My offset spatula. And just spread that around. And then I'm going to get my strawberry jam. A layer of strawberry jam in the middle, give that a spread around. Then I'm going to get some fresh strawberries and put them around the edge. You're going to see them on the outside of the cake. And then I'm just going to press them so they're pointing upwards, so the top cake layer lies pretty flat. So I'm going to get my final layer, place that on top, make it central, just like so. I'm going to put a bit more jam, and this is just to make it look like jam spilling out of it. I'm going to put a bit on the edges, press that in. I kind of want it to look a little bit messy. And I've got some strawberries which I'm going to put on top. And then the classic sprinkle of icing sugar on top of a Victoria sponge. You cannot beat it. Just like so. And that is my Victoria sponge finish. So it is going to be really fluffy and light. It's filled with loads of vanilla buttercream, strawberry jam. It looks like it's oozing out, which is what I want. Topped with some fresh strawberries and icing sugar. Favourite bit, taste test time. So I'm going to cut a slice out of this. And there we go. The crumb looks really good. That is amazing. It's super light and fluffy. The strawberry jam and the buttercream and the icing sugar on top, it's just delicious. I'm going to finish this slice off and probably this whole cake. So thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you find it useful. If you do, please don't forget to like and subscribe. And I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye!